Hi everyone, and welcome back to Maths and Physics with Mr. Simons. Today's lesson on equation of roots. We're looking at nature of roots and solving the unknowns in the quadratic equation. Given an equation, and then we state that it's either real, it's rational, non-real, etc. Right, so let's look at the problem. So determine the value of the unknown given, for which values of p will x squared minus 5x equal negative p have real roots. If I write this in standard form first, I take negative p across, it becomes plus p. So from there I know that a is 1, b is negative 5, and c equal p. Alright, so using the discriminant, p squared minus 4ac, that would give me negative 5 squared, minus 4 times 1 times p. Right, that gives me 25, so negative 5 squared minus 4p. Right, that would give me 25 minus 4p. Right, now for real roots, the delta must be greater or equal to 0. Alright, so for real roots, we need to remember delta is greater or equal to 0. Alright, so I'm going to say 25 minus 4p greater or equal to 0. If I take 25 over, it's going to become negative 25, right? And then from there, very important, whenever I divide by a negative, the inequality sign must change direction. So there I have minus 4p greater or equal to negative 25. This is going to become negative 25 divided by negative 24, but then now it's going to read p less or equal to 25 over 4. Right, take note, negative divided by negative becomes positive. And there's my answer, p less or equal to 25 over 4 for this to have real roots. Right, now determine the values of the unknown given. Determine p if 2x squared plus px plus 2 equals 0 as non-real roots. So I assume you remember for non-real roots, the discriminant is less than 0. So there in the equation, a equal 2, b equal p, and c equal 2. Now substitute in the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, right? And from there, that b would become p squared minus 4 times 2 times 2. Gives me negative 8, negative 16. So p squared minus 16, right? And for non-real roots, that must be less than 0, right? So less than 0, so I have p squared minus 16 less than 0. Now, if you know for non-real roots, you don't need to write this line. You can start straight by saying p squared minus 4ac less than 0. I'm just doing it piece by piece for explanation purposes and trying to assist or help everyone. I hope I am. Right, so from there, difference of 2 squares, which you know how to factorize from grade 9. So there's going to be 2 brackets, and I read p minus 4, p plus 4. Right? Now to solve this, we need to know the critical value. So to make this 0, 4 minus 4, and to make that 0, minus 4. So p equal to 4 and p equal negative 4 is technically my intercepts. Right, so there if we have minus 4 and we have plus 4. Alright, now where is it less than 0, meaning where is it negative? So I assume you can see if I say x less than negative 4 going to the left there, the graph there is positive. If I go this side, x greater than 4, the graph is positive. Go in between the two 4s, so if I have negative 4 and 4, x less than this 4, x greater than 4, this whole part there is negative. So we want less than 0, so this here is my answer where it is negative less than 0. Right, so p must be less than 4 and greater than negative 4 based on the equation p squared minus 16. For interest sake, that turning point would be 0 and negative 16. Alright, let's look at the third problem. Determine the values of the unknown given. Find the values of y for which the equation x squared y plus 1 minus 4yx plus y plus 6 equals 0 as equal roots. So for equal roots, remember, delta equals 0, right? Or p squared minus 4ac equals 0. So coefficient of x squared is y plus 1, so a is y plus 1. Coefficient of x is negative 4y, which there in front, so p equal negative 4y. And C, the constant here is y plus 6. Alright, so we're going to substitute it in b squared minus 4ac. Right, so my b, negative 4y squared minus 4, a is y plus 1, and then c, y plus 6. Right, so negative times negative there would give me positive 16y squared. No? Here I'm first going to multiply that 2, so y times y would give me y squared. 1y plus 6y would give me 7y, and 1 times 6 would give me 6. So there, as you can see, negative 4 times negative 4, 16, y times y, y squared. Y times y squared, 1y plus 6y gives me 7y plus 6. Right, so the correct multiplication. Now I'm going to multiply the 4 in. So I'm going to have 16y squared minus 4y squared plus 28y plus 24. Right, so there, 16y squared minus 4y squared gives me 12y squared. Minus 4 times 7 minus 28, and minus 4 times 6 negative 24. Now we divide everything by 4. So 12 divided by 4 would give me 3y squared minus 7y minus 6. Right, so there 12 divided by 4, 28 divided by 4, 24 divided by 4. So for equal roots, this here must be equal to 0. So 3y squared minus 7y minus 6 equal to 0. Right, if you factorize, 3 is a prime number, so it can only be 3y times y. Right, so there 3y times y, and the factors of 6 here, minus 3 times positive 2 gives me negative 6, but negative 3 times 3 would give me negative 9, plus 2y would give me negative 7. So from there, y equal negative 2 over 3, or y equal 3. Right, so there y equal negative 2 over 3, or y equal to 3. So that is nature of roots. I hope you understand. When I have time, I'm going to do some more exam questions on this. Right, I would love to assist you as much as I can. Please like and subscribe if it's helpful. Leave a comment of motivation and so on, so that I can continue working towards helping as many learners as possible. God bless. Bye.